I just love doing people's hair, helping people feel good, helping people reclaim who they are. And it's just really powerful. And the energy that comes out of a session is just like enough to I can't even express. That's why I keep coming back to my job every day, is that helping people feel good about themselves actually makes you feel good about yourself. And the energy that we create in these experiences is just like, it's amazing.
Hello, and welcome to Founded with Soul, the podcast that sits down with corporate dropouts turned soul led entrepreneurs that are building businesses that actually feel good. We're redefining success in every episode. I'm your host, Alana Kane, and today I'm sitting down with Kimberly Adams, who is the owner and operator of Kimberly Rebekah Hair. After years of climbing the corporate ladder, she felt a deeper calling, one that led her to trade in her soul crushing 9 to 5 for the salon chair and redefine success on her own terms. Today, her passion lies in helping clients achieve healthy, beautiful hair through a holistic approach that nurtures true hair wellness, self care, and inner balance. From stunning extension transformations to her signature head spa experience, every service is thoughtfully designed to nourish both hair and spirit. Each visit is a one of a kind experience that leaves you feeling refreshed, confident, and more connected to yourself. She's also expanding her business into hair toppers as a hair loss solution. Combining her passion for extensions and scalp care, she'll be able to offer additional services for those experiencing visible hair loss. Kimberly, I'm so excited to have you on today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. I'm so excited too.
So, Kimberly is a friend of mine from the Columbus area. So, if you're listening in Ohio, she's your girl. She has the cutest, very inclusive salon space in this old historic home that they made into like a really cool salon space. So I think this is going to be a great conversation for anyone that is feeling like, they're missing some creativity or they want to go back and do a program or some education with the goal of really opening their own salon, being a solopreneur, and everything that it took for her to get to where she is. So, Kimberly, I want to start with just taking yourself back to where you were when you were 18. Did you have kind of like a dream life envisioned of where you would end up?
Honestly, I didn't have a dream at the time. I just was doing what I was expected to do, go the college route, figure out what you're going to do after you go to college. So no, I had no real dream, and I really did not ever think I would be an entrepreneur. It wasn't something. I didn't want that control. I didn't want to have to be in charge. It wasn't something I had ever dreamed about.
Super interesting. Where'd you go to college and what did you study when you were there?
My college journey really was all over the place. I had originally gone to art school, realized the amount of money I was spending / the return I may or may not get wasn't going to be enough. So I freaked out. I left, went back to community college, did that for a while while working full time, like mostly serving restaurant jobs. And through that process, I eventually found a corporate job that I could work while going to school full time, because I was close enough to get my bachelor's. I already had received my associates. So I figured I'd go to school full time and work full time. I could do it. I probably was like 23 at the time. I can do this. And I realized that was really going to be hard, especially with the amount of hours I was working. So I kind of took a back seat from some of the corporate jobs and didn't really make it my main goal, but still worked them and found the corporate job I could work while going to school. And then shortly after eventually graduating from college, I continued my corporate career because I already started it. So I started working up at certain jobs. At one point, I decided it was time to leave the company I'd been with. I was looking for more mobility, and they didn't want me to, honestly. I could read the energy. They just didn't want me to because I did all the work. So putting me in a higher position or moving me forward wasn't going to be advantageous for them. So I left, went to another corporate job, and I was like, oh, this will be great. It was more entry level. My degree was in public relations. Sorry, I didn't say that. My degree was in public relations marketing. So it was more entry level, but it was getting me still into the place I needed to be. And it honestly felt worse than the last place I had been, just because they hadn't really come up to speed with current practices in the world. And I wasn't even allowed to talk to my like someone across the aisle from me. I got in trouble for talking. So I felt like I had taken a worse job essentially, and I realized like I was going to keep trading apples for oranges and feeling stuck because the person who was next to me had been there for 20 or 30 years already. She was trying to retire and no one wanted to fight the system. So I was like, I really can't see myself continuing here, but I will just keep finding this everywhere else. Throughout this time, I had probably had like maybe 2 or 3 like dark nights of the soul already. So I was like, this is another one coming and I don't know what it's going to bring me. I don't want to be in corporate America anymore. I let the dark night of the soul happen again because I was like, I'm miserable. This isn't where I'm supposed to be. You know, you're making money, but it's not, you can't really spend it because you're working all the time. And then when you're not working, it doesn't feel good to spend it because you're anxious. You don't want to spend it. I was just like constantly back and forth with what I should or shouldn't do. And I didn't feel confident. And honestly, looking back, so this is about 28, 29, I didn't know who I was because I really had held on to this dream that, you know, everyone wants you to follow. And, you know, I want to be a good girl, so I want to follow it too. And I just feel like I was so lost because I didn't know who I was and I was like 29. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm almost 30. I should know. That's kind of like where I was before I chose becoming a hairstylist.
Yeah, it sounds like you were in a little bit of a corporate prison there for a couple years.
Self-imposed, but I mean, you choose it, but at the same time, you end up feeling stuck into this prison that you kind of chose, but you kind of didn't. And then your life starts building up. You start acquiring all the things you need to survive. You get comfortable, but you're very uncomfortable in your job. So you can't leave your job because you now need to survive. And then I saw all the people I was working with having kids, or like maybe they had to like have their parents move in with them or whatever the situation. And it was like it got them further stuck there. Whereas I started seeing like I could look at options elsewhere and felt that it was safe to leave. So I was like, oh, I don't want to be stuck here. When I was at work, I would try and Google on my phone, like, how should I make a budget? Because if I was going to be leaving, what was the least amount of money I could accept to survive? And I'm not good at math. That's just not my thing. So I really figured out how to make a little budget and figure it out because I knew that I needed to start thinking about it for real. And if I didn't put those figures together, it was always going to be like a dream in my head.
So when you started kind of making that budget, did you have like a figure in mind of how much you needed to save to be able to make a big move?
Yeah, I think I had a partner too. So I do think like we've always been 50-50. So it was nice to know that I had his 50 already secured away. But my 50 slash I had more expenses than him needed to be secured away. I just really started thinking about what were my skills outside of being a corporate bitch, you know? And I really was like having a hard time thinking about that because I think for almost 10 years at that point, I had become a shell of a human because I was what everyone else wanted me to be. So I was like, what the heck am I going to be able to find that's going to compensate me enough to leave corporate America? You know, and I've already just valued myself at this point. I didn't think I was worth what I was worth. So I'm like, man, like, how could I charge that doing that? And, you know, I'm not even worthy of X, Y, and Z. Like, you start kind of going through this process of what you can and can't do. And that also gets you down because you just hope that you have the skills to get yourself out of this hole. And I didn't feel like I did. And well, I think what I did was I had listened to some podcasts or maybe I'd listened just to some other people who had left corporate. And very much then it was like blogs. It wasn't like social like it is today where we're making videos and content. You know, this is 2018. And I was like, I think something I read was saying, think about what you loved doing when you were a child. What was the thing that kept you busy? And for me, it was art. I was an art kid. And that's why I initially went to art school. So I was like, well, I already did that. Like, I'm not going back there. But I was like, well, there was this time in my life where I thought I would want to be a cosmetologist. But most of my life, anytime I brought it up, it was like, you're either better than that or you're not going to make enough money to sustain life. That's really not a serious career option. And so I had turned it down because also there were some characters that I knew in the cosmetology program. And I was like, judgmental and turned off because I didn't want to be associated. But also, like, I didn't ever really get my hair done as a kid. That wasn't something we could afford, honestly. So that wasn't something I did until maybe like preteen, getting a haircut. It wasn't something I'd really thought was a true option for me, and I had disregarded it. I started thinking about that more honestly and thinking, well, why do you care what other people think if that's really what you would want to do? And I was paying to get my hair done at the time and had always gotten along with anyone in the salon. So we always had a good time. And I was like, yeah, I mean, why do I think this is not worthy? I started seeing, like, around 2016, I had finally gotten an Instagram and I had seen people were having careers on there and were sharing their work. And I was fascinated by it, but I didn't really think, oh, this could be me. I just thought it was a really cool way of doing business because the old way of hairstylists doing business was you have to give your card to everyone you meet. You have to go around to the stores, like, you're doing that constantly. So this was a little different, and from what it looked like, people were being really successful online. I was like, "Wow, maybe I could take what I learned from the corporate world and PR and do all the things they weren't letting me do on their social accounts and do it for myself. And I don't need to prove anything to anyone because I'm the boss. I do the art, I take the pictures, I post the work, and no one ever has to tell me yes or no." And I was like, "Whoa, that means I could be an entrepreneur," which I didn't say no to, but I just had never imagined myself there. But I think after being, in the position you're in when you're corporate America and you find out what the dream really is, you're like, dang, if I can do this for them, I can do it for me and better because I'm not going to stop me. There's no one stopping this train. And why don't I just go for it? I was speaking to my husband, or well, we were dating at the time, but we owned a home together, so we were very serious. I was scared to tell him because anytime I told my dreams to anyone, it was like, "You couldn't really do that." And he was like, "Well, I see who you are, and I know you can do this, and I don't wanna see you this way, sad, and really thinking about this constantly. So if this is what it takes, like, go for it. I'm gonna support you." And I was like, "Sweet, okay, let's do it." Now, with that being said, his support was more of like, "You still keep up your 50, and I will do what I can if you ever need my help." I was like, "I'll be fine. I can do this." Like, I believe in myself. Plus, where I was so bad that it was exciting to choose this. I was giving myself another chance to where I was like, when you hit rock bottom, anything is better? And I had hit rock bottom. Like, I'm only skipping over all that because it's too emotional, too much. But it was like you have nowhere to go but up. So it's kind of like, all right, great. I've got the only person I care about really is opinion. And I had learned to let my parents' opinion go probably like that year prior. Because I was like, I didn't ask their permission. I didn't tell them until had quit my job because I didn't want them to stop me essentially. So yeah, that's basically how I got there was getting a little bit of support and knowing I could do this after putting my budget together and really thinking about what I liked doing as a kid.
Yeah, and I think so many of us have this kind of like wake up moment in our 20s of like, wow, I'm living for everybody else and not myself. And so much of what we do now is just fostering that inner child that we didn't really get to express or do the things we wanted to do when we were 13. Now we get to do them. So I love hearing that because I think it's so relatable. Did you have kind of like a moment where you were like, shit, like this, how did I get here? And like, how did you pull yourself out of it as well?
I can't specifically think of the moment because I have had a lot of them. Like, I've just always been a very sensitive and emotional person, and I'm just now like really accepting that about myself. But all through my 20s was a really hard time, and the dark nights of the soul, which are just like those moments where you kind of wake up to what the world really is and what you weren't shown or what you weren't given, and you go down all these rabbit holes. I think for me it was like sometimes that can really scare people and turn them inwards. Unfortunately, people hear about and realize what's really going on in our world and they will, off themselves. And I never wanted that to be me. I have struggled with anxiety and depression a lot of my life. And I can see how people can get there. I don't want that for myself, but when you're in a really deep place, you can see how people can get there. And I've had been through enough deep moments of my own that I was like, shoot, I'm only at this point I'm 28 and had at least 6 to 7 years of really trying to get through it and climb that ladder and be honestly like this neurotypical person who follows the rules and can do what she's told. And I said to myself, if I keep going, I don't see that happening. That's another, like, what, 40 years? And at this point, I don't even know currently if we're gonna have a retirement. And I knew that then because, I graduated high school in 2008, and they were saying it then, like, "There might not be enough retirement for you kids." And it's like, "What? That's weird. You don't understand what that means when you're a kid." You're like, "Whatever. Who needs that?" Now I get it, and now I understand it, and I'm like, "What am I working for if I'm not gonna" like, 40 plus years of potentially no retirement to be miserable? Like, and I just, like, could not imagine me going any further, and I also knew what I needed to sustain financially and that they were not giving me that. I had, like, enough of awareness to know that I still wasn't being paid properly with all the things I had accrued through loans and this and that. It was like nothing was ever matching, and I was, like, miserable trying to get there. In my mind, I was like, "If this is all this is ever gonna be and the job sucks, why I can't." For me, it was like, let's go do something fun, and that stuff will all figure its way out. That's kind of where I was.
Yeah, I totally get that. I also, I think, had that same conversation with myself, like, "Can I do" like, 65 is retirement? Like, that's a long time, you know? Like, I can't do this anymore either.
Yeah.
It's, like, almost wild to think that our parents did that.
I don't know. Well, and the thing is, I think that in all honesty, it's because they're a different breed of human. Like, they have a different nervous system. They were able to adhere and adapt to where we're a lot more sensitive. And we don't have that capability in the same ways that they did to just like power through it. I try to embrace that sensitive side to me because I think it's like what's going to change this world. And for more people to see if they're sensitive, they don't have to follow that regiment because it's not gonna work for you.
Yeah, I totally relate to you on that one. Digressed a tiny bit, but in a good way. How was then choosing, where you're gonna go to cosmetology school and, like, that next chapter? Talk to me a little bit about actually quitting and then enrolling into that, and how long did that take you to do?
So through that process, I had, like, researched what schools were local and like, had received a few opinions just to know, like, where should I or shouldn't I go? To tell you the truth, I was called to one school. It's not like it was for a good reason, but it was closer to my home, and I was trying to, figure out financially, like, this would be a lot better for me to drive only, like, a mile away, and I could see myself doing that because it's like, you're doing that for a whole year. Your full-time job becomes going to school, and then you find in between times working, which is mostly the weekends, to make real money because you don't make money in hair school, you have to pay to be there. So, I chose the school. I don't really wanna name drop because I wanna be able to talk, but I chose the school I chose because of closer to where I live. But I had also heard from enough people that it really didn't matter what school you went to because what they were supposed to teach you was how to pass state board. They're really not giving you much direction otherwise. If you get to learn other stuff here and there, it's a bonus. So really, you want to choose a school that has the highest success rate of passing state board. So they had a good state board number, and I was like, well, you know what? Let's just do it. So I met them. Honestly, I didn't have the best vibes. But I had been through enough stuff that I was like, this felt like a way out. And I had gathered enough of my financial information and gotten everything squared away that I just knew that this was what I was gonna do. And I kind of just jumped in. My husband and I went and toured. I told him, yeah, this is what I want to do. And I did not look at another school. I had been to other schools in the past, like, because I had friends go there or whatever, and I heard information. But it was really just like, let's do this and get it done because I started calculating, well, if I quit now, I can start this class in 2 weeks. So I'll put my 2 weeks in now and I'll start this class in 2 weeks. So I basically I didn't go from having a break Just quit the job, went into starting school. And in that time, I was like, well, I need some sort of job because I did have a little bit of savings because within that year at that last job, I had kind of knew that this wasn't it. I didn't even make it a year. So I just knew it wasn't it. And I was not using all my extra money that I would get on my paychecks. I would just save everything that didn't help me survive. And so I had saved up enough to know that if I needed to quit, I at least had like 2 to 3 months worth of living covered. And so I said, okay, I'm just going to do it. I put my 2 weeks in at the corporate job and started like, I don't even think it was like the last day at the corporate job was on Friday. And then I started hair school on Monday. And I was just so excited. I was happy that I had chosen myself. I was excited to see what I could do with everything I had learned. You know, sometimes you feel like going to college sometimes can feel like a regret, but I do know I learned a lot and learned critical thinking. So there's that. But there is a lot of feeling of, did I, is doing this the right thing? And I honestly wasn't scared. I just had a feeling that it didn't matter because I was choosing something fun. I already liked doing my own hair, a thing I loved doing as a kid, which is why I chose it because I was like, well, I loved doing my own hair, taught myself how to braid, taught myself how to curl my own hair. I would always be getting myself ready for like my friends and I's MySpace pictures or whatever it was. Like we would spend hours doing our hair and makeup and it was just fun. And for me, that's what I was like, I'm going to do this for real. And who doesn't love a good photo shoot? All my clients are going to get photo shoots and we're going to have a blast. I'm just going to tap back into who I was as a kid.
You go to hair school, you're working on the weekends. Was it really hard to, like, keep balance, or you were just having
hmm
so much fun in school that you were like, "Oh, it's fine. No worries."
It was a lot. Because you're there like a 40-hour work week, essentially. The weirdest thing, like they scanned your veins to scan you in to make sure it was you when you come in. There's no like clocking in with your thumb or anything. They take a red infrared light and it scanned your veins. So no one could clock in for you because you had to clock every hour. So they were very strict. And then you had to be participating every hour too. So a lot of it was about safety and sanitation, really. That's what our license mainly is safety and sanitation. So through the 40-hour work weeks, you're learning all that, but then you're also potentially taking new clients. You get like a 3 or 4 hour block every night where people come in, your friends, or people just from the street will come in for a haircut. So it was really affordable. So you get a lot more clients that way. Basically, I did that for the year. And then, so the first like 2 weeks in hair school, actually, so they would let us go on breaks and we would walk over to the gas station just to get like a Coke or a coffee or something. And I had walked over there with some of the girls and I walked back and I don't know what I did, but I just like tripped over my foot in the parking lot, but it led to me actually breaking my foot. And it felt like a sprain, but I was like definitely in pain. And I'm just sitting there in class and like 2 weeks in, and I'm like, oh my God, like I've never broken anything in my life. It was in a lot of pain, but I was like, this is crazy. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. That kind of threw a wrench into like my heart a little bit because once I went to the doctor and like, yeah, your foot's broke, you need to be in a cast and you probably or a boot and you probably need to stay off of it. And I'm like, I am not doing crutches. So I got a scooter and I was like, fine. I'm just going to scoot around the school. And it was like inside of an old car dealership. So it has like a big space. I was like, I'll be just fine. Nothing's going to stop me. So yeah, I kept going. I took my scooter out of my car every day, put it down and kept it moving. Everyone kinda laughed at me but it was fun because then people would, like, scoot around the building in it, and so it kind of, like well, it showed people that I was still showing up regardless of what was going on. I had some teachers even say to me, like, "You're not gonna make it." Like, one specific teacher, she was like, "You're not gonna make it." I was like, "Whoa." Like, I'd never have been someone say something so, like, straight up to my face like that, and I was like, "Is that because she thinks I'm a kid?" Because all the people I was in school with were 18, and I was, like, 30, so I'm like, That was so strange. I just kind of, like, said to her, like, "Well, what makes you think that?" She's like, "Well, most hairstylists have to be up on their feet, and you can't be on your feet." And I was like, "Well, it's healing, and I'll be fine. I'm here, aren't I?" Like, so I just think that they're used to seeing people not continue through hardship, and me wanting to still be there, even though my foot hurt and I was in a boot and a scooter, like, I actually knew I was supposed to be where I was supposed to be because I was still wanting to be there. So I was like, "Okay, you're a hater, but I'm where I'm supposed to be, so I'm not worried about it."
What a B word.
No, it was so weird.
After you pass your boards, what happens next?
So I make it through, I pass my boards. Honestly, that was probably one of the harder years of my life. I'll just say that and skip over all of it. I still never even told my husband all of it. I would just come home and not tell him about the day because I just wanted to leave it there. But yeah, I made it through. I go to my state boards. A local person was opening up a booth rent salon, um, versus I could go to just like a typical salon where you're making commission. And I wasn't sure. So I decided to go actually the commission route. But I'd always thought like maybe one day I'll be booth rent and I'll go that option when that time comes. So I did the commission salon, and through that process, I was, like, trying to get my own clients the way that they were set up. You still get your own clients, and I was really marketing myself online still because hadn't stopped through hair school. Like, I've just always shared everything because I know people love being a part of the process, and so I was just always sharing my journey and where I was at. It just didn't really feel aligned there, but I also knew it was potentially because I was new and everything was new, and shortly after, so that was, like, when I had started working there was, like, October of 2019, not long after that COVID hit in what, January 2020. So I had been there for like 3 or 4 months and then that hit and we couldn't work anymore. We were off in March until for 3 months. Through that process, I kind of was like going through a really hard place as everyone was, and I really didn't have much hope. I wasn't worried about my job because I didn't really even think about it. I was like, "I think we're all dying." And I was in a really hard place. So, I actually did stay busy though during the time because I wanted my hands to keep me busy, so I got a mannequin and I even, like, bought these shoulders for the mannequin head to sit on so I could put, like, shirts on it and make it look like there was a human there. My husband and I really were the only people that saw each other for that whole time, and I really was kind of lonely, but that mannequin really helped me get through because I was really depressed, and I didn't care about going back to work because I didn't think it was gonna happen. I thought I was gonna get viral on TikTok. It did not happen. I barely even made enough videos, but it's because you realize how much you have to make, and I was like, "I don't even have that. This is just enough to keep me, like, checked in so that I was, like, not just watching TV and smoking weed all day long."
It's interesting because almost every single guest I've talked to so far, COVID has been one of those huge breaking points for everyone where they were like, "Okay, if this is what the world's gonna be like, I'm making a big change."
Yeah. I feel lucky that I got a little taste of what the commission world looked like, but ultimately, I think especially because of some of the communications that had gone on during the time I wasn't there within the salon group chat, I didn't feel aligned, and like, I'm worried about surviving, and some of their group chats were, like, trying to, like, kumbaya and have fun, and, like, I get that, that's cute, but I really didn't think that that was gonna happen, so I didn't like that as a distraction. I wanted to live in my own little world. I think that's where I need to go is, like, more towards, like, being my own boss. Someone had opened up that was kind of like, "Hey, like, outside of COVID, I'm gonna start my own salon," so I was like, "Oh, cool." Another person who's interested in that, I'm gonna, like, follow her. We're gonna maybe I'll work there. And so I end up like connecting with her and she was like, "Yeah, I have a booth if you want this for this amount of time." Um and I had a friend who also needed a space, so we basically shared the chair, and that was like our first beginnings of being our own boss. Like, it's kind of weird because in a salon world, people don't understand that you are your own boss there because it still feels like you're all working together. But on our side, it's nice to know, like, I was responsible for everything I needed to do. No one was gonna stop me, and, like, I was I was free essentially. And so I just was really excited to get back to work and create something that I didn't know what I was gonna create, but I knew I was going to be starting something.
Yeah, so I'm also unaware of how all the beauty stuff works. So, do you need like a down payment or it's just rent the chair? Do you bring your own stuff? Like, what kind of is the financial impact of kind of doing it that route?
Yeah, so you have to have, like, a separate insurance that you pay yearly. You have to have a separate license through the state. So you already have your license, then you need a separate license, but you just pay for that one, essentially saying, I am going to be responsible. And then when it comes to finding your own space, it depends on how the place is set up. But this place was set up where I just had to pay my weekly rent, which was I think $250 a week. And as long as I could pay that and pay for my own stuff, like I was paying for my own shampoo, I was paying for my own towels, I was paying for my own chemicals, which of course, my own foils, anything I needed, I was paying for it. And it's a lot at first because some stylists already have that stuff, so they're only paying for their color once they have everything else. So when you're first starting out, it can be a little more pricey, but I really just realized that I could just buy what I needed when I needed it. I didn't need to have a lot of stock, and especially being in a small salon downtown, I had like I think 3 drawers to my name. So you have to use your space sparingly and kind of get good at what you know you need, and you don't know what you need because you've really not done a lot of hair.
How long did it take you to kind of fill up that client base?
I'll say now I'm still building. So I'm 7 years in and I'm constantly building. People are always moving. People are always changing their minds about what they want to do on their hair. People unfortunately do die too. So like you have to kind of compensate for the fact that like life just happens. So I'm still building, but at that time really building was a lot harder because what I am posting to on Instagram wasn't really my clientele base as much as like people I knew or people in the industry. So it's like, okay, well, how do I get people to actually look at my stuff so that they can watch me long enough to then like trust and come in? So I think like that was the hardest part because you aren't going out and seeing people, and really you couldn't because there's not a lot of interaction outside of people making appointments. It was COVID still. Like, we were wearing masks with every person. People were wearing masks in the street. I think for me, it's always been Instagram, even though sometimes I love it and hate it, but it's a really good way to showcase your work. And then the stories is a really good way to be yourself. And so I have just always posted on my stories, and I have always posted on my wall, and I've just always been really into aesthetics, like the way things look. I'll be like, especially whenever your grid used to matter, like I was making sure it flowed, and I still do some of that stuff, but more as like, is this intuitively giving what I'm trying to put out there? So I think for me is it's always been Instagram. And then also with Facebook, knowing that Instagram links to Facebook, it's kind of connected them together, but not everyone I follow is on both. So it's kind of tapped into both worlds. And to tell you the truth, none of my following has ever come from TikTok because, not that I'm aware of, but my TikTok is really more for just me to be silly and maybe make content that I'm not yet confident in putting on those other channels. And then I come back, like, on my Instagram, I'll post stuff currently that I posted 2 months ago on TikTok because I feel more like, "Okay, I feel a little more, like, less vulnerable now, I'm okay with sharing it." Versus TikTok, like, not a lot of people I know follow me there, so I feel a little more like I can talk about my emotions or something.
That's how I feel about my TikTok too. I'm like, if you're my friend, don't tell me you saw my TikToks.
Yeah, yeah. And if you don't like my stuff, why are we friends on here? Like, if I see my friends scroll by, I, like, go back, and I'm like, "Go back."
I do that too. So you're renting this chair. How long does it take you to open up your own salon space? Because I'm assuming that's what's next, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, yes. So, I was sold a dream at that salon, which so many hairstylists are, and you find out what you signed up for, and then you're like, "Oh, so it's true what they say about everything." And for me, like, you have some bad moments and, some drama, or it wasn't so much me as much as it was, like, being around it, which is a reflection of you. And so I was like, "Oh," like, where I'm really aware of energy now. Like, I have gotten to a place, and a lot of these people I thought were too, so we were gonna be on the same page. but it wasn't. It was only a manipulation tool to make people think a certain way and then don't do that. So it was kind of like, oh, I found out what I had signed up for and that it was not true and that I was spending my money towards putting my money towards something that I didn't want to continue to do. And I was in a contract because you sign up for the year. And the owner knew I wasn't happy and basically was like, well, if you want to leave, like, I'll cut you a deal and you can leave early. And I was like, okay, like, I'll pay to get out of this contract because I don't want to be here. And I left and found a studio suite. And basically, the person that I'd rent the booth with, we had went to hair school together and we were still on the same page where we both were not involved in any of the drama. And we both left. And she knew we both didn't want to be there. So she let us both go. And we both rented that studio at this space and shared it together. So it was nice to have someone to split the cost with because it's like so much more expensive to have your own studio. And really at this point, like a lot of times in this career, the financial payoff isn't like in the first 5 years, it's after that. And just because consistency and all that. So you're like, okay, so I have to pay like $350 a week for this chair and I have to make at least that to be able to like come even, you know? So it's kind of like scary, but I think the fact that you believe in yourself and you're putting yourself out there and you're showing people like despite that I'm still going. And sometimes it's scary, you're like faking it till you make it, but it really does end up happening because, you know, people love to support people who really believe in themselves. You put it out there a few times and you get a few people supporting you and you're like, "Oh wow, that was really cool." But then you start realizing it's cuz you're putting yourself out there. It's not just because they're choosing you, it's cuz you're doing the work, you're manifesting. You start to have some confidence. You're like, "Oh wow, like people are seeing what I'm doing." Someone who has known me now 2 years is finally coming in for a haircut. It starts to, like, make sense that, like, you're growing and not everyone's gonna come right away. In time, you start to build, you get better, you even have opportunities or I don't wanna say it's an opportunity, but maybe a failure where you can learn to get better. You know, you start off with your prices are lower, so you're gonna take a little more time when you start to figure out how to do better. Really, education is a continuous thing in our industry, which any industry, but because you're in charge of it, you really have to. But your clients can tell because things aren't always done the same in this industry. Everyone does things differently, and sometimes they create shortcuts that are really good, and your clients get to experience the benefit of those. If you're someone who, you know, let's say you're doing hair for 10 years, you've never changed your processes, your clients don't have modern hair. They have stuff that was good 10 years ago. Then you're sick and they're like, "Oh, I still need my hair done." And they go to, like, someone random who, like, slays their hair because that person's new and needs a client and happen to have an opening. And then they lose their client after 10 years. So I think the really important thing is keep wanting to try new stuff, find what resonates with you, where you're willing to spend your money for education and kind of chase your goals that way. I'm in the same career I've been now for 7, 8 years, but like I keep changing the ladder, you know? Like I'm like, "Oh, I want to do this now." Well, it's been a year. It looks like I'm upping my prices this year because I've added on new education. I'm making myself more valuable in a way. It makes sense, and I have not once ever had anyone complain about my prices going up. I've had people complain that maybe I'm not in their budget, which is fine. I've never had any of my clients complain that my prices are going up. Usually they say, "Good." They're like, "Great." I don't even sweat it and no one says anything. If I'm not in your budget, you already knew it. So me going up $5 a year isn't gonna make a difference. I'm not really, yeah, with a $5 increase, I'm not even really making profit. It's just me staying with inflation. But
Yeah,
I
I was
can't
just gonna
not
say
do it.
that.
You have to increase your prices.
Yeah, I mean, and I think people in this economy understand that, and even just knowing you for, like, what, 2 or 3 years, you've already done so much education and have added so many new things in just the short amount of time I've known you, so I think that is such a good lesson for any entrepreneur that's starting, like, especially me in marketing, like, I have to constantly learn new things, like, every week because there's a new program or there's a new this, but staying
Yeah,
stagnant, you can't do it as an entrepreneur.
right. And you really have to add that value and talk about it too. And that's why I mean, I'm expensing everything anyways. I need to talk about it on social media because a lot of times I may not always include everything, but I'm like, I need to share that because one, I bought a camera over the summer that I started taking photos with the intention that this is going to transform the way I'm sharing my hair. And so it's like, take that as like a benefit. My clients get to have fun photos. Sometimes they're like, oh, send that to me. And like, it's just these little moments that even though it was fun and creative, like it gives them more value. They're not just sitting there getting their hair done. Like, but for the most part, we're curling their hair and taking photos at the end because I love content. So if they have the extra 15 minutes, I'm like, all right, let's curl your hair and do something fun. And they just love that.
You Yeah, so you mentioned expenses, and as creative people, I know there's a lot of parts about owning your own business that suck. So tell us a little bit about the things you don't like to do and what maybe you've done to make that process a little easier for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, the most expensive is rent weekly. For me, and now at this point, I've figured out where I wanted to be, networked enough to be able to get my rent to a place that's a lot more affordable. But it wasn't like that at first. You fuck around and find out, you know what I mean? You spend a lot of money to find out, ooh, I could get it a lot more affordable. And you know, know people now. I had a friend who opened my current salon. It's a collective. And I saw what she was doing and I was like, "Ooh, I want in." So it was like, luckily, I've known her for a few years now because of being in the industry. So some of those things don't happen right away, but it's okay because you really need to get those lessons before you find your actual place. But for me, yeah, the biggest expense is rent. So trying to get that cost down. I got the cost down by moving, but then also recently my best friend that's kind of always been around and that I've already talked about in the story, her lease went up and I was like, come move in. So her and I are now sharing the space because we're not there on the same days anyways. And so that cut the expense a little bit more. And we both love the space now. There's more joy there when I'm not there. The next big expense, is unfortunately like chemicals and color. And there's really no escaping that if you're going to do color. I'd say like half of my business is color. I really in my current season of life, I'm not saying no to color, but it doesn't bring me as much joy. So I'm trying to say yes to things that maybe don't cost me as much to do, like head spa services, things like that. I mean, the extension services cost a lot more because I'm doing a lot more education, but I don't have as much cost because if they're not getting color, then we're just sewing their hair in and keeping it moving. So for me, it's just really weighing like the pros and cons of, how much money do you want to spend as a business owner? If you're going to be a specialist who specializes in color, your expenses are going to be a lot higher. And so then your profit is not as much. But that also brings up the other thing I'm kind of passionate about, which we haven't talked about yet, which is our products and what's in those products and how unhealthy and unsustainable they are long term and how they're toxic. And if you're doing color intensely like that every day, there's potential that you're picking up those toxins in your body and it could turn into cancer. I'm using better quality products because if I'm going to use them, I don't want to be necessarily ingesting stuff. I'm just always using gloves and protection, and that's really all you can do. But I really don't think our industry is going to be as intense with chemicals in the future as it is right now because, for me personally, I'm already trying to convince people to embrace their grays. I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I think they're beautiful and we're really lucky to get them, actually. We need to go more towards that, and that's gonna take a long time because I do have that conversation with people, and they're like, "I'm not ready, I'm too young." And I'm like, "You can go gray at, like, 21." So, like, yeah, you are young, but we've turned gray hair into, like, a bad thing when really it's not. I think our world is going towards that. Of course, like, it's hard because that pays our bills too, but I think if we supplement it with other stuff like head spas, going more into the root like the self-care, which is really important. Like, it's not just a girly thing. The effects of self-care are amazing. I think if we really focus on that and really being more holistic, it will turn everything around, but Of course, people are in like survival, so that might not happen in my time. I don't know. But I'm going to talk about it and be a part of the solution instead of like ignoring it.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you pointed out, it's not only your client's health that it matters about your products, but it's your health. I think maybe you shared something, but there's such an increased risk for hairdressers to get cancers because of the chemicals that they're using. And imagine if you were still in a big salon space and ingesting all of that all day, like even removing yourself from that. I'm sure you've saved yourself so much like secondhand inhalation of those chemicals.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. And it's unfortunate because people are really just trying to pay their bills, but we really have to be aware of it because you say that now and then 10, 15 years from now, you're in a hospital and there's no turning back. And this is real and it is really happening to people. And there are real lawsuits out there. And, you can have a lawsuit for something that's not real, but these are pretty big things. And these companies also really like to hide stuff. So I was aware of that coming into the industry. To tell you the truth, I wasn't like, you know, not aware of it. But now that I'm in it, I can understand it a lot more intensely. And I don't want to say I'm not going to not do color, but I'm definitely backing away from it. And, if someone wants it, I'm still going to do it. But I charge my hourly price. So you have to pay the price if you want it. And if you don't, then I'm going to spend more of my time doing the things that do make me a little happier.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your progression into the world of head spas because this is a new thing for you. Tell me a little bit about that education and actually how it helps
Yeah.
people as well because you do the whole like scalp survey. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, no, it is. We basically take a look at your scalp with a microscope to see what's going on before we would treat you. We're not a doctor, so we're not going to like diagnose anything, but we can at least see what's happening. And with the knowledge we have, like, hey, maybe you need more moisture, or hey, like, this looks like this could be something you want to talk to your doctor about. We don't know what our scalps look like. It's not something we can look closely at. So this is really fascinating for a lot of people. And I think it's groundbreaking because it's skincare. Like the skin on our scalp is the same as the skin on our face, but it actually matters more on our scalp because the condition of the hair is dependent on the condition of the scalp. So you really want to focus on your scalp skin so that you can have better hair. And yeah, I think for me, I have always just really enjoyed hair, but I really like as a kid, my mom would play with my hair occasionally and like I'd just lay there and she'd run her hands through my hair and I'd say, "Can you do more?" And I really always loved that relaxing part of having your hair played with. And so for me, whenever I started seeing these, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have to do that." Like that and that's perfect. Like I can do this for people because I'm a cosmetologist. Like it felt so perfect. And so when my friend said she was going to open up the collective, which has the head spa in the first floor, I was like, "Yes, I'm in. Let's do this." It's really nice because I don't think people have a lot of free time, obviously, these days, but not even free time. It's like we're just stuck on our phones even when we're off work because there's so much involved in it that it's normal now to be on your phone. And when you've been on there and your phone's like, last week you averaged 11 hours every day. Oh my God, what? It starts to make you realize like there is a monopoly on your time and that you're never off of your phone. And our modern society, it is going towards what can we do to be off our phones. And that is partially why I do also love my job because it keeps me off my phone. But I'd say, like, for my clients, when they're getting a head spa, they're basically surrendering. And they're like, okay, I'm here. Take care of me. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. I'm taking you in here now. Get into the bed. I'll be in a second. And they put their phones away and they're like, what's going to happen next? So then we just go through the whole process. It's very sensory oriented because it's your scalp. It's very sensitive to touch. It doesn't get any touch. So when it does get a little bit of touch, it can just take you to a different place and allow you to actually just shut off your brain along with the water and the noises, aromatherapy, things like that. I know since you and I've done some breathwork stuff, it's really hard to detach. It's really hard to put yourself in a place to like turn the thoughts off. I feel like this is one of those things. And then you get the double benefit of, hey, this is what your scalp looks like. This is what you can do in addition. Or, hey, come back in X, Y, and Z, and we'll help you continue to remove the issues you're having, whatever it could be. So I just feel like it's not just about taking care of your skin as much as it's like a holistic process of well-being, you know?
Yeah, I love that, and that's, like, why I wanted to have you on because you're not just a hairdresser, hairstylist. You are, like, so multifaceted in what you offer, and you really do want it to be inclusive. You're all about, like, energy and spirituality and just, you've been to the burnout, right? You wanna help your clients out of it, and I love that so much. And now you're gonna be offering this
Thank you.
other the hair toppers for the hair loss, which I also think is amazing because I have friends that their hair's falling out and they're, young. And so I know it's something that, hurts your confidence and everything. So talk a little bit about getting into that and what you'll offer.
Yeah. Well, it's all kind of connected for me. It's like, well, I've been doing extensions now since I started. And a lot of times through extensions, you find people have scalp issues or they have hair loss, and helping them work through that and I can see their scalp in 6 weeks. Is there success or has there been more loss? Things like that. So I kind of connected the extensions and the scalp together, and I started really working the two of them together where almost all my extension clients now have had head spas, or they're like, hey, next service, I want the head spa too. So they've kind of created their own packages, if you will. And so whenever I started looking into other hair loss solutions, there's not a lot out there for like the top of the head. A lot of the extensions and stuff are what I have is like hidden underneath here. Like people can't see that, which is great. But if you have your loss up here in the front of your head or on the top of your head, everyone can see that. And there's really not an extension for it. The only thing there really is like a wig or toppers. And basically, unless you have that option, the only other option, which is not a great solution, is some of these hair clubs where they shave the area because you can't have, there's hair there still, but there's not enough. So they need to shave the area to make a clean space, put some glue on it, and put the wiglet on top. And then it grows out and you get maintenance every 4 to 6 weeks. Those are typically targeted towards men because they come in every 4 to 6 weeks for haircut anyways. And really, they don't care if their hair continues to grow. Like they don't care. They really don't. They just want it to look good. Whereas our hair is a reflection of our health. We understand it's connected. And if you're shaving it off every 4 to 6 weeks, you're never really seeing what it looked like before. Or if the hair that's an inch long is longer than the 3 inch hair. Clearly, we've got new growth here. You're never really going to know that because some of those hairs are terminal and some of them are new, versus with someone who isn't shaving your hair off, which is, I'm not going to be shaving anyone's hair off. You're basically walking through the process every time. Oh, look, there's more growth here. Or, hey, I'm not seeing there was much success. Or, hey, we had more loss. So I'm really seeing it as like a partnership, helping them through because they probably have a doctor. They're going through this, through whatever loss they're going through. But they don't have someone on their side to say, hey, no, this is what I see. I'm like, I'm not trying to speak for your doctor, but this is what I see. So giving them my information, educating them along the process, because I don't want to just tell them. I want them to understand so that they can become their own advocate and, seem like they know what they're talking about with their doctor. I really think bringing the two worlds together, three worlds together officially, is what the next step I'm in. And just really helping more people accept their reflection and like what they see, because some of the clients coming to me they haven't started yet. I have my class next week. I start my class next week, but I already have 2 models set up to come. But these 2 specific clients are businesswomen. They are executives. They run shit. And it's really hard to run stuff when the reflection you see isn't matching up with how you feel inside. And, some people are like, oh, that's shallow, whatever. Well, it's shallow until you need to have that confidence. You're standing in front of a boardroom. You're trying to make the message come through, but you think they're staring at your hair loss. It's like takes you back to being a kid again. No one has to say anything. You are energetically right back there. How does that person get a sale closed, a 20,000 plus dollar sale closed when they're in their feels and back to being 7 years old? So I think this is just going to energetically help women. Well, I'll work with men too, but mainly women really stand up for themselves and gain that control back. And in the meantime, if their hair is growing back underneath, hey, look, your hair's growing back. You might not need this service in 6 months. So I'm not trying to make you stay with me versus like if we were shaving it off, I know you're committed for the next year, like I really want to be a partner and help them get their hair health back. In some cases, it might not be possible, but I'm down for a challenge and helping them.
Yeah, I love that so much. Like, you can just tell how much you care and, like, you truly do want the best for your clients, and I feel like that's kind of hard to find these days.
Oh, thank you. Well, I just know how much my hair means to me, and it really has changed my life to care about myself. Maybe it was really actually my dogs. My dogs made me care about them. And I was like, well, if I can care about them, I can care about myself. And I think hair is that for me. It really just helps me kind of walk into the room and feel confident. And I know it's that for so many people. And when you don't have it, you don't know what you're missing.
Yeah, totally. I have just a couple more questions. What is one of the hardest parts about being a solopreneur and your own boss?
I mean, the hardest part is making some of the decisions, but that's also the best part. um, yeah, maybe sometimes being alone. I have like moved around to try and find my people and really tried to network so that I wasn't alone and create like the community I want to have. So that maybe has been the hardest, but it's been a slow process, which is great because you find out what doesn't work and what does. Before you know it, you're 7 years in and you have people who are your people, but it doesn't happen right away. So you kind of feel alone or that you're different and that you're not really cut out for this industry. I think just knowing that you being yourself and sharing just who you are with people is enough. You don't really have to have much more because just people resonate with little things because they see themselves in you and then they want to come to you and then you start creating this relationship with them where if you hadn't have been yourself, they wouldn't have come to you. And then now you wouldn't have this relationship that like has blossomed into 10 different things now. And it's like by me being myself and opening myself up, it then opened them up. And then together our energy created something beautiful. And that might not be 2 or 3 years after they've been my client. And they may still just never, it may never turn into anything. They may just continue to come to me to get the haircut. And I love that too. But one of the best parts about this has been meeting people, which is even how I met you. It was through Laura, who was my client first, and watching what kind of lives we can all have together and have fun and support each other. And, Laura quit her job now and she's doing the dang thing. And I'm like, yes, girl, get it. Like, but it's like, because this community where she's already supported, where she's like, well, yeah, I know people are doing that. I can do it too. Just seeing where it's taken my life and the opportunities that are endless now. And I'm not being held back by a corporate ladder that I qualified for. I just couldn't get past. It's proof to myself that I didn't need any of that. Like I have the magic in me and they were really just holding me back because they saw it.
Yeah, I keep saying, like, this podcast is for the good kind of crazy, the people that, like, everyone's like, "You're doing what?" So, yeah, when Laura quit, I was like, I'm a big cheerleader. I know you were a big cheerleader. So the more people you get together, like that community is just so important. What is some advice you would give to someone that was in your shoes that like maybe is in school now and kind of wants to follow a similar path?
So if you weren't sure if college is for you and you wanted to like go to hair school, I'd say like maybe if you're close enough to associates, get your associates. Because I do think college can be really important if you've started it. If you haven't started it, going to hair school will give you all the experiences in life that you would experience in college. It's up to you to make that adventure though, because I will say in hair school, there was girls who were, 18 and like I said, I was 30. So when a contest would come up, I'd always enter the contest, but they were not entering. And guess who won? Me. I don't know if I won because I was good, but I won because I always entered. So I won a lot of shit in hair school, contest wise. I even went to California for a trip one time. Like, I wasn't afraid to apply for stuff. I think just like you choose your own adventure. If you are afraid of putting yourself out there at 18, hair school might not be for you. Because honestly, I don't know if I had it in me till I was 30 and I had seen enough of the world to know I was confident enough to know what I knew. And at 18, I would have probably become just a commissioned stylist, would have not had enough confidence to do the things I've done. And, like, that's not to say you can't do it at 18 because my best friend was 18 and she's followed the whole process I followed, just younger. It takes support and knowing that you're gonna be just fine. I'd say know that it's gonna feel like you have $0 in your pocketbook because you do have $0, but you're rich in soul and you're meeting people and you're growing something. And that is why it is better to start when you're in your early 18 and 20s because you already don't have a lot. It's a lot scarier to do it when you're in your 30s, but it's not impossible. You just have to make sure it works if you're going to do it. But at the end of the day, like, I really feel like where the world's at right now, like, if you're holding back from doing something that's going to bring you joy, like, it's not the world, it's you. So you have to go for it. Otherwise, you can't really complain about it.
Yeah, for sure. Putting yourself out there is very hard. It's very hard to get out of your comfort zone, but it usually pays off tenfold. And then my last question of the interview, question I ask everybody, how do you redefine success now?
So it's taken a lot to get here. I'm not saying I don't fully believe it, but there's still like this part of me that's like, that's not successful, but it's just like the conditioning in my brain. But truly, my success lately within the past year or two has been about resetting my nervous system and becoming less triggered by everything around me, including my job, including, everything essentially, and really just trying to reset. It's a slow process. I'm not perfect. I need to pay more to get into the classes and keep it moving, but I'm aware. And I think that makes me more successful because on my days off, I'm telling myself, hey, put your phone down, go rest. You worked hard. You deserve to rest. You don't need to be doing this. You don't need to be surveying the internet for current events so that you're up to date. Like, you don't need to do it. You just need to rest. And the reason I am keep telling myself that is because it's hard to do it. So if I keep telling myself, eventually I'll get there. And about a year or two into it now, like, I really do believe it and look forward to my rest. Laying in my hammock. I'm really sad about the winter coming because the hammock is my favorite space. It's just like being weightless, I think, laying there. So yeah, I think it's just important to rest and evaluate your success based on how much you're allowed to rest. And maybe it's because a lot of friends have like kids and things like that, and there is zero rest. So I'm like, I get to like do nothing today. Okay, we're gonna really enjoy this.
Yeah, a lot of my success is around sleeping, either sleeping in or being able to take like an afternoon nap. I'm like jackpot.
Yeah. Well, and also, so I went to Scotland this summer, which is really awesome. My first trip in 7 years. So I worked really hard to get here. But the really cool thing that I've always heard, which is for sure real, is they do not want to work there. And I love that because I don't want to work either. But like, they don't see it as like going to work. It's just part of their day. And, someone who works in a restaurant makes as much as someone who works like in the social world or whatever. It's like it all just kind of works out and they really do. They're not trying to work. So I'm trying to think, okay, well, other countries have been around a lot longer. So maybe we're the ones who really are behind and we need to learn what it's like to not work and to have these moments of being lazy, which we're not. But if that's what we're going to call it, we need to have those moments because we're not ever going to relax if we don't learn to stop, honestly. Like, we need to chill out with work.
There's two things I've learned traveling. One was an eye-opening experience. I met this German guy and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just on work holiday for 4 weeks." And I'm like, 4 weeks?
But they work harder because they're given more time.
And in Europe, like work isn't their main part of their lives. No one asks, "Oh, what do you do?" Like they do not care. They're like, "Oh, I'd rather go and have coffee with my friend today." It's like completely different. I don't know where we went wrong, but
I know. Well, it's like basically what they like to say, I think, is during like the Ellis Island times and stuff, like all the people who really wanted to work hard came over here. And then they turned it into this whole like capitalistic game. And like all the people who didn't really want to work stayed over there, but they still did just as well, if not better. So it's like a litmus test of maybe we should have just not, our ancestors should have just not wanted to work as hard as they did. I mean, I get it. They needed to get out of where they were at, and that was the opportunity. But there is something to be said for the amount of work they do not do over there and the quality of life that they have.
yeah, for sure. So I know we could talk for hours and hours, but if you have, I know we talked a little bit about some of your services. If you want to add anything else, go for it. I'm obviously going to put all of your links below, but you can do a little commercial if you want.
Yes. So I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and I am always accepting new clients. You can find me on Instagram at creme brulee. It's spelled with a K, KREMBRU.LEY. And yeah, it's not all about hair there. I'm trying to like transition to like talking about my life more because I don't want to just be a hairstylist. I just love doing people's hair, helping people feel good, helping people reclaim who they are. And it's just really powerful. And the energy that comes out of a session is just like enough to like, I can't even express. That's why I keep coming back to my job every day is helping people feel good about themselves actually makes you feel good about yourself. And the energy that we create in these experiences is just like, it's amazing. So yeah, thank you for having me and letting me share and asking me to be on here. I struggle with being seen, so I was like, "Oh gosh, I guess I have to be seen." So here we are.
No, it's a great first step, and I hope people really resonate with it. All of her transformations are amazing on Instagram, and she's cut my hair. Wonderful job. Absolutely wonderful. So thank you so much for being here. All of your links are going to be below if anyone is local or wants to drive to you, because I think this hair loss thing is going to be something that people will be like, oh, I will drive 2 hours to go and do that.
I hope so.
If you resonated with anything in this episode, be sure to leave a comment, leave us a review. I would love to hear from you. If you want to share your story like Kimberly just did, there's a link below. You can fill it out and I will reach out to you for an interview, and we'll see you on the next episode.